Hello, my lovely PowerCats, and welcome back to Along the Edge. Where we last left off, the main character moved back to her old family home, and she was talking to the servants, trying to figure out what was going on and all of that. So let's get back into it. Daphne, I couldn't find the entrance of the tower. Do you know how to get inside? Well, I couldn't say, miss, no. I couldn't tell you how to get in if my life depended on it. Madam, your grandmother said that it had been walled up, and that we were better off not knowing what was inside. Do you mean that no one's been inside for the tower for what, 30 years? 40? Goodness me, much more than that. I'm 67. I've been living here since I was 14, and the tower's always been that way. So nobody knows what's in the tower. But surely you must have some idea, don't you? You must have heard talk in the village, right? Well, it's just gossip, a waste of breath, is what it is. What are you talking about? Please don't press me, miss. With all due respect, I won't dirty your late grandmother's name with that nonsense. The conversation with Mrs. Bortine aroused my curiosity. The tower, the village, the Maltiers, and I thought my relocation would lead to a life of austerity and isolation. I have to admit that what's going on in the village is far more intriguing than I anticipated. Unfortunately, the realities of everyday life catch up with me before I have the time to look into it. I'm obliged to spend the last days of August preparing for my classes at the middle school, and I hadn't realized how much work that would involve. So I spend most of my time shut up in the house, buried in the textbooks for all the new classes I've been given. Then the first day of school arrived, and despite a few difficulties, after a couple of weeks I began to get my bearings at the school. Life fell into a routine. The days passed like trains. Chapter 2. September. I've decided to take advantage of the weekend and go back to the market. I'm sure someone will finally agree to tell me more than the tidbits I've managed to gather up to now. Especially about the Maltier family, who seem to fascinate half the village and terrify the other half. I would start with the baker. If she hasn't finished her season already, she can't be far off. She wouldn't be taking much of a risk sharing some gossip with me, seeing as she's leaving until next summer. I see Gerald Burtine on the other side of the square. He's talking to someone, a tall man with a self-possessed air. I could go over so that he has to introduce me, but the bakery's about to close. I might not get another chance to question Mrs. Biershard. What should I do? Go to the bakery. Hello, Mrs. Biershard. Oh, hello, miss. You're in luck. I was just about to close. Are you finishing the season soon? Yes, I am. I ran into a bit more into September than we planned, but that's it. We're calling it a day. 2 weeks vacation, then we're moving to the Alps. My husband and I. We're doing the ski season there. Oh, that will make a change. I'm glad to be leaving. The money's not bad, but I don't like the atmosphere around here. So will it be one baguette, or as usual? Yes, but I wanted to ask. Yes? What do you know about the Maltiers? I told you I don't want to talk about them. I don't want any trouble. But you'll be leaving soon. I really need to know. Nobody wants to tell me anything, and seeing as you're leaving so soon. You seem like a nice young lady, so listen to me carefully. Me by the arm, She takes me by the arm, puts her face close to mine and whispers. The Maltiers, they're sorcerers. That's why got the whole village under their thumb. If you don't do something they don't like, bad things happen. Oh, so I was kind of right about Daphne's family being maybe like witches and stuff. So maybe they're sorcerers. How do you think I got this place? Bakers don't take 3 month vacations. Mr. Blanchard, the owner of this shop, 3 months in the hospital. Physio, the lot, the poor man. He fell down the stairs. The other shopkeepers, they told me he'd had words with the mayor. The mayor? Well, yes. Yves Maltier. He's the mayor of the village, didn't you know? I didn't. Apparently they were talking one evening, some petty quarrel about the land register, a fence that wasn't at the right place or something, and then bam, the next day he falls down the stairs, just like that. Do you really believe all that? Well, usually I'm a bit of a doubting Thomas. I only believe what I see, but it's troubling. I don't think it's wise to joke about it. Thank you for talking to me. I'll be discreet, don't worry. Well, now you know as much as I do. You be careful of them. I'd hate if it was my fault that something happened to you. Don't worry about me. Goodbye, Mrs. Bouchard. I glanced around for Mr. Beertine and his mystery companion, but they've already gone. Maybe it's the mayor. Too bad. I go around the shops, trying to find out about the Maltesers as I buy fresh contents for my refrigerator. Unfortunately, now that I've been identified as the young Harris, the tongues are tied. The villagers have become surly polite, yet distant. As I carry my groceries to the car, it begins to rain. And it doesn't stop for the whole weekend and the beginning of the next week. I'm at school teaching geometry to my 6th grade class when nature finally intervenes to give the sun back. But the respite is short-lived when a bit later I discover a summons to the principal's office in my locker. Even though I'm now on the other side of the fence and I no longer risk a detention, I admit it worries me a little, adding a sense of menace to the otherwise radiant September day. When I venture into the principal's office, I discover Mr. Chastanet, the principal, in a heated debate with someone who I guess is the irate mother of one of my pupils. The poor man is ashen, he cowers behind his desk, and he's so hunched up in his big leather chair, it's as if he's melting into the upholstery. Please, Mrs. Lefkew, you must admit that your demands are most unusual, to say the least. We've had nothing but praise for Mrs. Delatour's professionalism and her devotion to the teaching of mathematics. Ah, here she comes. Mr. Chastanet fixes me with a imploring gaze, as if I was his only hope of salvation. Do you want to see me? Yes, please. Take a seat. Let me introduce you to Mrs. Lefkew, Jean Baptist's mother, one of your 6th grade students. I'll speak to Mrs. Lefkew. Hello, Mrs. Lefkew. It's nice to meet you. I'm Daphne Delator, Mrs. Dupuy's substitute. I'm really very satisfied with your son's work. He's an excellent student. Are you kidding me? You must realize I'm not here to talk about my son's math skills. Look, Mr. Chastanet, I'm not going to exchange words with this. Anyway, we had an agreement, you and I hope you'll keep your word. Jean Baptist's mother glares at me coldly. I hear the direct mutter in his beard. But we hadn't agreed to anything. I don't know what to make of the situation. After a few seconds that feel like hours, I give up and say, what exactly is the problem? I'm sure we can find a solution. I'm not sure how to tell you this. Mrs. Lefke wishes to remove her son from your class. Did I do something wrong? I don't understand. Everyone seems quite happy with my work. Why would you want to remove your son from my class? This has nothing to do with your teaching. It's probably her family. That's probably why. Mrs. Lefkew has be reasonable. You can't ask us to change the class just like that, for no good reason. For no good reason? Ah, that's it. You're falling under the Delator's spell, too. Oh, yeah, I knew it. That family of pagans. Hey now, I'm a pagan. You arrive in town, and just like that, you think you can get away with anything. What are you talking about? Oh, she's a Christian too, so no wonder. But me, I can see what you're up to, and I won't be fooled by the others. Do you want me to say it? What you are? A witch. Those tales of witchcraft have nothing to do with me. Yeah. I don't appreciate your insinuations, and I will not have my name associated with your archaic superstitions. I am a scientist, and I assure you that I don't believe any of this nonsense. And you, Mr. Chastanet, I hope you won't let yourself be influenced by these medieval beliefs. I would happily continue to explain myself, but Mr. Chastanet interrupts to cut short the discussion. You see, I was sure that if we discussed it rationally, we could come to consensus. I mean, I trust you're reassured, Mrs. Lefkew. And Mrs. Delator, I hope I can rely on you to take good care of our dear Jean Baptist's progress. Of course, sir. I'll pay special attention. What? Oh, you. You're in it together. There's no other explanation. You, Delator, you won't get away with this. You haven't heard the last of me. With that warning, she leaves the room, slamming the door behind her. There's an awkward silence, which is quickly broken by Jean Chastanet. Well, Jean Chastanet. That's the third time she's burst into my office for this nonsense. I believe I owe you one, Daphne. It's my job. You're welcome, Mr. Chastanet. Soothing parents' irrational fears is also part of the job description. When I finally get out of school, it's almost dark and the rain is pouring down again. As if today's events hadn't already annoyed me enough. Seriously, how could that woman smear my family name like that? I know that the Delators have a bit of a reputation in the area, but to call me a witch to my face. In my workplace? Even if I had magical powers, how could she think I would harm a child? It's appalling. I've lit a cigarette and now I'm sitting by the window, brooding over these thoughts. When suddenly the headlights of a car illuminate the bend in the road. To my surprise, it turns at the gate and comes up the lane to the house. Who would visit me this late? I think I recognize the grubby gray van, with the ladder on its roof, and a hastily patched up right wing mirror. How is this possible? What is he doing here? I run down the stairs. I open the front door. Frank? There he is, my ex-lover, at the door, drenched by the relentless rain. My heart sinks at the thought of seeing him, talking to him once again, just when I resigned myself to the fact that he was a remnant of the past. First happy, then not so much. How did he know? How did he find me? I hadn't even told him I was leaving. Daphne? How long do you plan on making me wait in this rain? We need to talk. But, what are you doing here? Frank stands in the hall, watching me, clearly annoyed. I'm fine, thanks for asking. I know we broke up, but didn't it even cross your mind to call and let me know that you were moving to the other side of the country? I mean... What do you mean? Come on, explain. It's none of your business. It's nothing to do with you. You said it yourself, we broke up. Alright, then tell me why I'm still getting your mail. My mail? Yes, a letter from your mother. I know your relationship's difficult. So I figured it's probably important. And then I had to track you down, which wasn't exactly child's play. It would have been easier if you'd left me your new address. Since I'm between jobs, I thought I'd take a few days off. Frank smiled at me, looking amused, then pretending to check out the room, he adds. Funny, I've been dreaming of a weekend in a bed and breakfast, or should I say, castle and breakfast. So what do you think? It's a little bigger than our old flat on the main street. Do you ever get lost on the way to the bathroom? You know, I've always thought you were a bit of a toff. Wouldn't you agree, Lady Daphne? Quit talking crap. What, don't you like Lady Delator? What about Lady Daphne? Or your Grace? Your Grace. Sounds perfect, don't you think? Frank is wandering around the hall, inspecting the furniture and ornaments. If there's one thing that he's particularly good at, It's a way he can diffuse tense situations. Do you mind if we talk about it tomorrow? I've got to say, I'm shattered. As he speaks, he pulls a letter from his inside pocket and places it on the chest of drawers in the hall. Your mother's letter. I know it's not easy for you, but if we, you need to talk about it, I'm right here. Thank you. Well, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna crash on your sofa for a few hours. I like this perspective right here. It's kind of trippy. There's like 4,000 rooms up there. I can't let you sleep on the sofa. I'll let you in the guest set you up. I'll set you up in the guest room. Even better. Show me the way. I wake up early the next morning. Frank must still be asleep upstairs and won't be awake for at least a couple of hours if I know him. Looks like she's naked. I don't feel like getting up yet, so I decided to stay snuggled under the quilt for a few more minutes. I think about what happened yesterday and how odd the situation is. Frank is fast asleep in a room just a few yards from mine. I can't believe he came all this way just to bring me a letter from my mom. Is he regretting our breakup? Is this letter just to pretend to see me again? I was ready to never see him again, but after everything we've gone through. We met almost 10 years ago. It was so unlikely. We had such completely different lifestyles. He was a carpenter and I was a freshman at the university, science major. I just arrived in town. There was a party at an acquaintance's. I still don't know why I was invited. I don't know why I went either. I guess when you're 20 years old, you jump at the occasion to go out. I guess the idea of escaping my student digs was enough to convince me to put on a pretty dress and jump on a bus. Frank shouldn't have been there either. He was working on a particularly demanding project, but our hostess had insisted until he had given up and agreed to come. I guess that's what we called fate. The magic worked right away. Then it was the same old story. A few years later, we moved in together. It was stupid paying 2 rents when we were living with each other all the time. 2 years ago, we took things a step further. Frank's small carpentry business was doing well. My PhD was on track. The subject just came up by itself. Frank asked me if I wanted to have a baby. For him, it was so simple. He was so sure about it. He was so sure of everything, of the strength of our relationship, that he didn't want to wait any longer, that it was the right time. I had cold feet at first, objecting that I wanted to finish my PhD first, that would have to think about it, but he managed to convince me. Something bad is going to happen, isn't it? I don't like where this is going. It wasn't that hard. I loved him more than anything, and I knew that sooner or later I would want to start a family with him. Why wait? We were happy. And then, late in the pregnancy, she had a miscarriage, didn't she? A few weeks before the due date, I lost the child. That's sad. They made me keep the lifeless thing in my belly for a few days, until the doctors decided to induce labor. Oh god. They didn't understand what had gone wrong. Frank stayed with me every step. He held my hand as I expelled death from my womb. Oh, that's horrible. The doctor refused to let me see the baby, judging that I was too fragile to handle it. But I saw Frank's eyes when they pulled the motionless and silent corpse out of me. I clung to him as much as I could, but there was a chasm in my chest. I didn't want to admit to myself, but I knew something was irrevocably broken. Frank decided to incinerate the body and scatter the ashes. Burying the body meant naming it, making it, in a way, exist, and that was much more than we could bear. In any case, I was incapable of making any decisions. When the first shockwave, then the tsunami it created in our lives, finally receded, I realized our relationship was doomed. We did all we could to overcome the misery, but sooner or later we had to face facts. We broke up without a fight. We agreed we couldn't go on like that. Frank kept our old apartment, and I looked at a furnished flat in the meantime. Then a couple of months later, the notary told me my grandmother had just passed away, and she had bequeathed everything to me. I take a quick shower, then go downstairs. The noise from the coffee machine tells me that Frank found his way to the kitchen. Mom's letter is still propped on the chest of drawers in the hall. I'll have to open it sooner or later. What should I start with? I'm gonna read the letter. The envelope is dog-eared and yellowing, as though it had traveled a lot. The stamp is foreign. The lettering tells me that it was probably posted somewhere in Asia. I open it with a shaking hand. At the first news I've had from her in years. It's been what, 5 years? 6 years? I can't remember the last time we talked. Frank never even met her. She was always a terrible mother, extremely controlling, but also glacially cold and strict. When I turned 18, I got university scholarship, which allowed me some financial independence, which in turn quickly became total independence. I couldn't put up with her interference in my life any longer. Little by little, we lost touch. One year, I made an excuse not to visit her at Christmas. The next year, I just sent her a postcard. I started to filter her calls, and one day the phone stopped ringing. The bond was broken. Years have passed without me noticing her absence. When I tried to contact her, she had disappeared without leaving an address. I must admit, I didn't try very hard to track her down. And now, out of nowhere, she comes back to my life with this letter. Her nervous, jerky handwriting hasn't changed. The content of the letter, though, is as cryptic as it is brief. Daphne, please don't accept the inheritance from your grandmother. Don't go back there. You'll only be putting yourself in danger. Regards, Sophie Delatour. That closing says a lot about her tender-heartedness. I wasn't expecting your mommy who loves you, but well. Mom never talked about the time she spent here with my grandmother at the castle. It seemed obvious to me that something had happened, but what? I turn this over in my mind as I enter the kitchen. Frank holds a steaming mug of coffee and is gazing out through the French windows. So you managed to figure out the coffee machine. You know me, without my morning caffeine, I'm a total zombie. Did you sleep well? Very well. Very well, thanks for asking. You? The bed's comfortable, and the silence of the countryside is refreshing. It's been ages since I slept so well. Listen, Daphne. I won't beat around the bush. I'm not here for the scenery. You must have figured that out by now. I think it was a mistake to break up. I get the funny feeling you're going to blow me off straight away, but I have to ask. Do you feel we could try again? I don't know. I don't know. I need to think about it. The reason why I say I don't know, though, is because, like, he seems not controlling, but just, like, he never takes in consideration what she has to say. But from the flashback, I mean. Okay, I understand. For me, it's very clear. To my astonishment, his face relaxes all at once. He grins at me and changes the subject. So seriously, what have you been doing here all this time? I tell him about my life and everything that's happened since I arrived. The Bourtines, the Maltiers, the tower with no entrance, and all the crazy stuff. I mention that now I'm a school teacher. I also tell him about my mom's letter. He's not sure what to make of it either. Right, well, I've got to say, your stories are very exciting, but also kind of worrying. Here's what I suggest. Whatever happens, I'm going to just stick around here for a while. I don't have any contracts in the near future, and I can't afford to give myself a couple weeks off. After that, we'll see. If I find some work around here, I'll stay a few more months. It's not as if there's anyone waiting for me to come home. It would give us time to think things over. Does it bother you if I stay at the castle for a week or two? Just until I can find a room somewhere? You can stay a few days. Did you think I'd throw you out? Of course. You can stay for a few days, until you get your bearings. Thanks. It's kind of you not to make me homeless. Don't thank me. It's the least I can do. So how do we do this? I don't want to get under your feet. There's no reason. We'd be in each other's way. This house is plenty big enough for both of us. I was just thinking, I'd better tell the wardens you're in here before I leave. We don't want Mr. Bortine to shoot you like a rabbit if he sees you hanging around the house. That's very reassuring. Don't be silly. They're very nice, you'll see. I've really got to get going. Enjoy your day. You too. I try to put my thoughts in order as I drive to school. There's quite a lot to digest. The day flies by, fast as an arrow. With everything that's happened since yesterday, I'm having trouble keeping my mind on my work. When I get back to the castle, there's light and movement. Even if it's only temporary, I'm glad not to be alone for a while. It makes a nice change from my last few weeks of solitude. A fire crackles in the hearth, and a delicious smell drifts out of the kitchen. It's almost too perfect, and I have a hard time not taking advantage of Frank's kindness. He seems determined to see to my every need. Still, he manages to keep me out of my way. We eat our meals together, but otherwise, we get on with our own business in different parts of the house. As promised, about 10 days later, he tells me he's found a small furnished flat in the village, and he's moving in the next day. I'm relieved to see him go. I've got a feeling that if he stayed much longer, the situation would become awkward. Days and weeks go by, and I slip back into my routine of the school, the village, and the house. I'm walking in the forest. The leaves have begun to redden, and trees are clad in the bold colors of fall. It's getting late, but I'm too busy strolling along the path. I hadn't noticed that, but night has begun to fall. I can see the castle at the end of the trail. Just as I get closer, it seems to move away. I feel a presence behind me. Something deeply evil, ominous, almost sickening. I begin to run. The house has disappeared completely, and I find myself in some kind of meadow. There's something in the middle, something that softly reflects the moonlight. As I get closer, I discover it's an oval pool filled with some silvery liquid. The image reflected on the surface is me, but not me at the same time. The sensation of dissonance gets stronger as I draw nearer. I can make out my facial features, but something has changed. I'm barefoot, but there's something different about my bearing, the way I carry myself. My hair is longer, it reaches the middle of my back. Most strange of all, it's pure white. When I look at my reflection, I seem so calm and at peace. I reach toward the mirrored surface, my fingers stretched out. The reflection starts to tremble, as if it was resonating. When my finger touches the cold and strangely clammy surface, it shatters into 1,000 pieces. For a few moments, the darkness is absolute. I am in some kind of green garden. A heavy fog surrounds me. I'm moving toward a reddish light that pulls me towards it, like a lighthouse in a muffled, turbid storm. I can make out a statue, a sort of human-sized sphinx, carved in granite. There is something majestic yet profoundly sad in the hunched-up, impassive attitude of the creature. When I'm close enough to distinguish it, I realize that a creature wears my face. I see my countenance reflected in hers, like a mirror. Then her eyes become alive, and the imploring, helpless look seems to beg for mercy. I'm frozen in contemplation, my heart overflowing with sadness and awe, when once again I feel the sickening presence, like a warmth breath on the back of my neck. I turn, struggling against the terror which invades me. Suddenly I'm falling endlessly. Darkness buries me. I wake up with a jolt. Chapter 3. October. Well then. Okay, so I'm barefoot in the grass before me. The black mass of the forest seems to invite me in. Okay, so we're gonna leave right there. Chapter 3 is already over. well, chapter 2 is already over. I'll see you Sunday with chapter 3. And if you want to follow me on my social media, links are in the description. If you want to like, comment, subscribe, share, go for it. I'll see you in the next video, everyone.